I'm starting to hate my best friend and it's killing me inside. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to say this, but I'm starting to hate my best friend. We've been best friends since middle school, and now, more than 15 years later, I'm at a point where just the sound of their voice makes me want to scream. The worst part, I can't even pinpoint exactly when things started to go downhill. It's like this slow, creeping resentment has been building up over the years, and now I'm at a breaking point. When we were younger, we were inseparable. We did everything together: sleepovers, school projects, summer vacations. We were so close that everyone assumed we'd be best friends for life, and I believed it too. But things started to change as we got older. I went to college out of state while they stayed in our hometown. I think that's when the first cracks started to show. We still kept in touch, but the distance made it harder. I was making new friends, experiencing new things, while they stayed stuck in the same routine, in the same small town we grew up in. Whenever I'd come home for breaks, I'd try to reconnect, but it always felt off, like we were living completely different lives. I was growing, changing, and they were staying exactly the same. I started to feel like I couldn't talk to them about my life anymore because they just didn't get it. It wasn't their fault they hadn't experienced the same things I had, but it started to drive a wedge between us. After college, I moved back home temporarily before starting my career in a nearby city. I was excited to be close to my best friend again, thinking we could pick up where we left off, but things didn't go as I'd hoped. They were still stuck in the same routines, working the same dead-end job they'd had since high school, and seemed completely content with it. I, on the other hand, was ready to dive into my career, make new connections, and explore new opportunities. It's not that I think I'm better than them. I don't. But it's frustrating to watch someone you care about just not try. They complain all the time about their job, about being bored, about not having any direction in life, but they never do anything about it. I've tried to encourage them, offer advice, even help them look for new jobs, but they always have an excuse. It's too hard, I'm too tired, maybe next year. It's like they're stuck in this endless loop of self-pity, and it's exhausting. Then there's the jealousy. I never thought my best friend would be the jealous type, but it's become so obvious lately. Whenever something good happens in my life, a promotion, a new relationship, even just a fun weekend trip, they can't just be happy for me. There's always this passive-aggressive comment like, must be nice to have money to do that, or I wish I had your life. It's like they can't stand to see me happy because it reminds them of everything they don't have. It's gotten to the point where I don't even want to share my good news with them anymore because I know it's just going to turn into a pity party. I've tried talking to them about how I feel, but it always turns into an argument. They accuse me of not understanding them, of not being supportive, of being judgmental. Maybe I am, but it's hard not to be when you've watched someone make the same mistakes over and over again for years. I don't know how to help them anymore, and honestly, I don't even know if I want to. I'm so tired of feeling like I'm dragging them along with me, of having to tiptoe around their insecurities, of constantly being the one to make an effort in our friendship. The thing is, I still care about them. I still think of them as my best friend, even though it feels like we're worlds apart now. I don't want to lose them, but I don't know how to keep this friendship alive without losing my sanity in the process. I've thought about distancing myself just to see if that helps, but the idea of cutting them out of my life makes me feel sick. They've been there for me through so much, and I don't want to be the person who just walks away when things get tough. But how long am I supposed to keep putting myself through this? I guess I'm just venting at this point because I don't know what else to do. I'm torn between wanting to salvage this friendship and feeling like it's already over. I wish things could go back to the way they were when we were kids, when everything was simple and easy and we were each other's whole world. But I know that's not possible. We're not those kids anymore, and maybe we've just outgrown each other. The thought of that makes me want to cry, but it also feels like a relief. I just don't know. All I know is that something has to change, because I can't keep going on like this. I'm scared of what that change might mean, but I'm even more scared of what will happen if nothing changes at all. I don't want to hate my best friend, but I'm afraid that's where I'm headed, and it's killing me inside. The first person says, "I'm really sorry you're going through this. It's so tough when someone you've been close to for so long starts to feel like a stranger. It sounds like you've tried everything to support them, but at some point you have to take care of yourself too. It's okay to set boundaries. Even with someone who's been your best friend for years, you don't have to completely cut them off, but maybe giving yourself some space will help you figure out how to handle the situation. Remember, it's not selfish to prioritize your mental health." Here's another opinion from the comments. This really hit home for me. I went through something similar with a childhood friend, and it was heartbreaking to realize that we were just on different paths. It's like you're mourning the friendship you used to have while trying to navigate what it's become. Sometimes people grow in different directions, and that's okay. It doesn't make either of you bad people, it just means that you're evolving in ways that might not be compatible anymore. It's a painful realization, but it might help to look at it as an opportunity for both of you to find your own way. The last commenter says, "Man, this is rough. It sounds like you've been carrying the weight of this friendship for a long time, and that's exhausting. You shouldn't have to constantly be the one putting in all the effort. It's okay to step back and take care of yourself for a change. Maybe some distance will give both of you the clarity you need to either repair the friendship or accept that it's time to move on. Just know that it's okay to let go of relationships that are no longer serving you, even if it's hard to do." Update 3 days later. So after I wrote out my thoughts here, I decided to take some of the advice I got and have a real, honest conversation with my best friend. It wasn't easy, but I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine when it wasn't. I invited them over, and we sat down for what I knew would be a tough talk. I started by telling them how I'd been feeling about the frustration, the growing distance, and how I felt like I was the only one trying to keep our friendship afloat. I was careful not to attack them, but just to explain how it's been affecting me. They were pretty defensive at first, saying they didn't realize I felt that way, and that they've just been really stressed out with life. I expected that response, but it still stung a little. But as the conversation went on, something unexpected happened. They started to cry. They admitted that they've been feeling lost and stuck for a long time, but didn't know how to ask for help without feeling like a burden. They said they've been jealous of how much I've accomplished and how I seem to have everything figured out while they're still struggling. Hearing that was like a punch to the gut, but it also made me realize that I wasn't the only one suffering in this friendship. We talked for hours, and by the end of it, I felt like we'd finally cleared the air. They agreed that they need to start making changes in their life and promised to take small steps toward getting out of the rut they've been in. I also admitted that I need to work on being more patient and understanding, even when it's frustrating. We made a pact to be more open with each other going forward and to hold each other accountable for our own growth. I don't know if things will go back to the way they were, her, but I feel like we've made a start. For the first time in a long time, I don't feel so much anger and resentment toward them. I actually feel hopeful that maybe, just maybe, we can rebuild our friendship on a healthier foundation. Thanks to everyone who commented and gave advice. It really helped me gather the courage to have this conversation, and I'm glad I did. I guess we'll see where things go from here. Update 2 months later. I wish I had better news, but things didn't go the way I'd hoped. After our talk a couple of months ago, I really thought we were on the right track. We both seemed committed to making things better, and for a few weeks, it felt like there was a real chance we could rebuild our friendship. They started talking about looking for a new job and even mentioned joining a gym to try and get out of their rut. I was cautiously optimistic. But as time went on, it became clear that the initial momentum was fading. They started falling back into old habits, canceling plans, complaining about their life without taking any action. And most frustrating of all, the passive-aggressive comments about my life started creeping back in. I tried to be patient, reminding myself of the promises we made to each other, but it was like watching them slowly sink back into the same place they were before. I brought it up a few times, gently at first, but each time I was met with defensiveness or excuses. Work's just been really stressful, or I'll get back on track next week. It felt like we were going in circles, and every conversation about it left me feeling more drained and disconnected. A few weeks ago, we had plans to meet up for dinner, and they canceled last minute again. That was the final straw for me. I didn't even bother to reschedule. I realized I was spending more time feeling hurt and frustrated than actually enjoying our friendship. I felt like I was back to square one, but this time I didn't have the energy to try and fix things. I've slowly started to distance myself. We still text occasionally, but I've stopped initiating contact, and honestly, they haven't really reached out either. It's sad, but I think I've come to accept that our friendship might have run its course. As much as I wanted to believe we could work things out, I can't force someone to change or grow if they're not ready. I feel a lot of mixed emotions, sadness, relief, and a sense of loss for what our friendship used to be, but I also feel like I'm doing the right thing by letting go. It's hard and it hurts, but I know I need to prioritize my own well-being, and I can't keep pouring energy into a relationship that's no longer healthy for me. Thank you to everyone who's been following along and offering support. It means more than you know. I'm focusing on my own growth now, and while it's painful to say goodbye, I'm hopeful that it will open up space in my life for new, healthier connections. Here are some comments in response to the latest update. The first commenter shares, "I'm really sorry to hear that things didn't work out the way you hoped. It's always tough when you have to come to terms with the fact that a friendship isn't what it used to be, but it sounds like you've done everything you could to try and salvage it, and sometimes letting go is the healthiest choice. It's okay to mourn the loss of what you had, but it's also important to focus on your own well-being. You deserve friendships that bring positivity into your life, not ones that drain you. Wishing you the best as you move forward." Here's another perspective from the comments. "It's so hard when you realize that someone you've been close to for so long isn't growing with you. It's like you're on different paths, and no matter how much you try to bridge the gap, it just keeps widening. I've been in a similar situation, and while it hurt to step back, it also felt like a weight was lifted. You've made a brave decision, and I hope you find peace in knowing that you did what was best for you. Sometimes it's better to let go and create space for new, healthier connections to come into your life." Finally, another commenter says, "This must be incredibly painful, but it sounds like you've made the right call. It's clear that you put in a lot of effort to try and make things work, but relationships, whether friendships or otherwise, need to be a two-way street. If you're the only one trying, it's only natural to feel exhausted and drained. It's okay to grieve the loss of this friendship, but also take pride in the fact that you recognized what wasn't working and chose to prioritize your mental health. I hope you find new friendships that bring you the joy and support you deserve." Update 8 months later. It's been 8 months since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have unfolded since then. After deciding to distance myself from my best friend, I took some time to really focus on my own life and well-being. It wasn't easy at first. Letting go of a friendship that had been such a huge part of my life felt like losing a piece of myself. But as time went on, I started to feel a sense of relief that I didn't expect. Without the constant stress and frustration of trying to maintain a one-sided relationship, I found myself with more energy to invest in other areas of my life. I reconnected with some old friends who I had drifted away from, and I made a conscious effort to put myself out there and meet new people. To my surprise, I formed a few new friendships that are genuinely fulfilling. These relationships are built on mutual respect and support, and they don't leave me feeling drained or resentful. It's a stark contrast to what I was dealing with before, and it's made me realize just how much I was sacrificing in that old friendship. As for my former best friend, we've largely gone our separate ways. We still exchange the occasional text or comment on each other's social media posts, but the closeness we once had is gone. I've come to terms with that, and I don't feel the same sadness or regret that I used to. I think we both needed to grow in different directions, and while it's bittersweet, I've accepted that this was the best outcome for both of us. Looking back, I'm proud of the way I handled things. It wasn't easy to confront the issues in our friendship or to make the decision to step back, but it was the right choice. I've learned a lot about myself in the process, about the importance of setting boundaries, prioritizing my own needs, and recognizing when it's time to let go. I'm in a much better place now, surrounded by people who uplift and inspire me. Life isn't perfect, but it feels lighter, more balanced, and more fulfilling. I'm grateful for the lessons this experience taught me, and I'm optimistic about the future. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this journey. Your advice and encouragement meant the world to me, and it helped me find the strength to do what I needed to do. I'm closing this chapter of my life with a sense of peace, and I'm ready to move forward with a clearer, more positive outlook. Here are some comments in response to your final update. The first person comments, "I'm so glad to hear that you found peace and are in a better place now. It's always tough to let go of a long-term friendship, but it sounds like you did what was right for both of you. Sometimes, growing apart is just a natural part of life. And it's great that you've been able to reconnect with old friends and form new, healthy relationships. You should be really proud of how you handled everything. Putting yourself first isn't easy, but it's so important. Wishing you all the best as you continue on this positive path." Here's another perspective from the comments. "Wow, what a journey you've been on. It's inspiring to see how much you've grown and how you've taken control of your own happiness. Letting go of a friendship, especially one that's lasted for years, is never easy, but sometimes it's necessary for our own well-being. It sounds like you've done a lot of soul-searching and made some really positive changes in your life. Kudos to you for having the courage to step back and focus focus on what's best for you. Here's to new beginnings and continued growth, the last commenter says. Reading this final update was so uplifting. You've come such a long way from where you started, and it's clear that you've learned a lot about yourself and what you need in a friendship. It's amazing that you were able to find closure and move forward with a positive mindset. Sometimes, the hardest decisions turn out to be the best ones, and it sounds like you've created a life that's more fulfilling and balanced. I'm really happy for you. And I hope you continue to find joy and connection with the people who truly matter. Thanks for sharing your story. It's been a great reminder that sometimes, letting go is the best thing we can do for ourselves.